Well, welcome back to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and today is the 23rd of October. Hello, Scorpio. Yes, that little beast is upon us. I like Scorpio. It's one of my favorite signs, to be honest with you. Scorpio rising, I've had to like it. I've had to love it. I love Scorpio rising. You get used to it after a while. What's going on out there? I have endeavored to try to fix some audio issues. There's a fellow by the name of Pro Monitor who often complains that my YouTube videos have way too much hiss in them. And not everybody else complains. But I played with my levels today and trying to get the hiss down. And hopefully, my little knob twirling has affected that in a very positive way. Here we are. We only have, let's see. We're going to be at November 1st in, 8 days? Is that right? Yeah, 9 days, November 1st. And that puts us 2 months away from the end of 2017. How fast has this year just absolutely ripped by us? 2017 might have been the fastest year for me in memory. It all started off when I was supposed to go to Colorado and do a live session with Regina Meredith, and was hospitalized on the day that I was supposed to go because my blood pressure was through the roof. And that's how it started for me on January 15th, 2017, and led to an odyssey through my personal health, which was never really terrible. Like it's so funny. We have to. I look at my life, I look at my diet, and I got rid of the things that I thought were bad, and I tried to keep a few things on the side, which I thought were in the mostly okay department. So I could have my little comfort food moments, my gluten-free pizzas from Udi's, which I really liked, and a few other gluten-free options, like corn chips and beans and all those things, and they don't work. I found out that they're not good for me, and that they have contributed very intensely to inflammation in my body. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, you change your diet, you'll change your life. This is a proven fact, and it's happened twice to me now. The first time it happened was when I went off gluten seriously back in 2010, and I really thought I was going to die because I was eating food that was just not meant for me, or at least not in this current incarnation. Whatever the wheat is that's been crossbred with that African wheat. It's that African wheat. You can always blame it on Africa. Anyway, they crossbred the Northern European wheat, the European wheat, with a strain of African wheat, which of course grows faster. And so we have this hybrid wheat, and then we spray it with glyphosate so that we can crack that seed faster, and the whole process going from wheat to seed to actual kernel germ to wheat happens a lot quicker. And it sent me on this exploration of wheat in general back then. It's so fascinating, the opioids that are in wheat and how animals get addicted to it. And it's really one of the least digestible substances on the planet. So it'll essentially go through the intestinal tract of animals, come out the other end with a nice, fertile package that it's already encased in, so it can grow again. It's one of the most pernicious and sophisticated vegetables or plants on the planet, wheat is. And then I was really getting into trying to find out all I could about wheat. And it was fascinating because I found out that if you were a slave in Rome, that the one way that you could get out of being a slave was to become a baker, because the work was very intense, and a lot of people didn't make it through being a baker in Rome, because literally you had to walk into the oven itself. It was very hot, sweaty. You'd have to crouch down and spend a lot of time sort of, dealing with postures that weren't upright, or, it was hard on your back. But if you did it, you actually, and were good at it, you won yourself freedom. So wheat played a key role in the emancipation of slaves if you chose to be a baker in Rome. Anyway, there's just some factoids about it. I got rid of it, and the thing I discovered very quickly was that my TMJ went away. I've been plagued with TMJ, severe TMJ most of my life. So bad that, I'd go to see chiropractors and osteopaths and all these people. And one day I woke up and I opened up my mouth and I'm, hey, what happened to my TMJ? That's gone. I'm like, well, I stopped eating wheat. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. Bing, 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 winner. Yes, of course it did. So I went down the non-wheat path for quite a while, meaning that I was eating wheat substitutes. And then that caught up with me. And then I realized through a series of really fortuitous connections with people through this show who were sending me bits and pieces about various diets. And the one diet that really struck a nerve with me was the Gundry diet, which Alexandra sent to me. And I started to take that a lot more seriously. And when I did, and I eliminated the legumes, beans and peas and corn and peanuts and corn chips and all those things that I love, and I eliminated basically even the gluten-free options, my back, which had been a source of immense, almost crippling pain, that all went away. It all went away. It's like, do I still have some back issues? Yeah, a little bit. But they're not like they were. Like 90% of my back problems are gone, eradicated by a change in diet. So if you are suffering from ill health and you are seeing various practitioners, I urge you, I really, really urge you, especially if you tend to be from the Northern European group of peoples, that you really look at your diet and check out this Gundry guy and see if it will work for you, because he basically says that there are certain foods for certain people that are just not applicable. And I got into this when I was into the blood type diet, Peter D'Adamo. I thought that was great, and it's kind of a version of the blood type diet, to be honest with you. But it saved my life. Anyway, there's my sermonizing about food today, and hopefully the hiss is better. Well, so what we're going to talk about today has to do with a different kind of food or a different kind of nurturing. It's the nurturing you receive when something catastrophic has happened to your life. Like, say, for instance, a hurricane comes rumbling into your town and destroys your municipalities, or perhaps it's a fire in Northern California that has come through and destroyed your home and everything around you. And so what are you going to do about it? Who's there for you? And what are the conditions that you must abide by in order to receive aid? Well, I found out about this last week, and it's been surfacing and kicking around, and so I wanted to bring it up today. And it's a very disturbing development in a lot of ways. Let me see if I can get it here. Hold on. What do we have? Let's go find this. I had this before. Let me see. Okay, so this, I found it. So this is from the website, the Electronic Intifada, and the author is Ali Abunimah. Ali Abunimah. He's one of the co-founders of the Electronic Intifada, And he's the author of The Battle for Justice in Palestine, which is on Haymarket Books. And he also wrote One Country, a Bold Proposal to End the Israeli-Palestinian Impasse. So this fellow is a Palestinian whose voice is trying to be heard. And it's a shame what takes place in Palestine, now known as Gaza. It's one of the great crimes against humanity in our modern time, and is never, ever, ever mentioned or talked about. Because if you are a celebrity or somebody who has some kind of social position, unlike me, I have no social position, if you do, though, and you talk about it, you will be shouted down and you'll be cut off at the knees. It is a no-fly zone. But let's talk about this. So apparently the city of Dickinson, which is in Galveston County, has required that people sign a pledge and an oath to Israel to not boycott them in order to receive funds so that they can rebuild their homes, their lives, and their community. And as Ali Abunimah has covered here, he says that it's not just Dickinson. All right, so here, this is what he's got. He's got a document that he got from the city of Dickinson. I'm going to read it to you. So it's a 10-part. There's a 12-part document, and he's focusing on points 10, 11, and 12. So 10 is sole source. Applicant agrees and acknowledges that the city has only appropriated $blank for this agreement. Under no circumstances shall the city be liable for payment of funds from donations, the city's general fund, or from any other city revenue sources in the excess of the amount appropriated. Point 11, verification not to boycott Israel. Now, what the hell does this have to do with getting your money? What does this have to do with not getting your money, or getting your money in general? Here it goes. By executing this agreement, the applicant verifies that the applicant, 1, does not boycott Israel, and 2, will not boycott Israel during the term of this agreement. How does this seep into local government and somebody just trying to rebuild their life? I mean, it's almost like a form of extortion and a pledge of allegiance. What if it said verification not to boycott Russia, or verification not to boycott Venezuela, or verification not to boycott North Korea, or verification not to boycott Iran, or verification not to boycott Burkina Faso? I mean, this is ridiculous. Here we have a foreign government coming into the state level and then seeping down into the local level. This is the reach of the octopus. The absolute reach of the octopus. So if you sign this, you're getting your money. But for some reason, if you ever decided that, oh my God, this is ridiculous, these people are out of line, and I happen to have a business, and I'm going to show my displeasure with this business because we've been doing business with Israel. But by the way, this has been happening in Texas now for a while. Greg Abbott is apparently an avowed Zionist. Oh my God. So, but if you wanted to, you can't. Yeah, remember that little agreement you signed? Remember that little pledge, that little oath? Can't do it. Can't do it. No matter how horrible these people might be, you cannot do it. No matter what crimes against humanity they might be perpetrating, no, you can't do it because you got your money, you got your blood money. Man, how does this happen? Why is it even in there in the first place? You know, and is this just the beginning of some greater pledge of allegiance that we're going to have to undertake? All right, I'm going to read you the article. An official contract requires residents of Dickinson County to certify they won't boycott Israel as a condition for receiving aid to rebuild after Hurricane Harvey. A city in Texas is requiring residents to verify that they do not boycott Israel in order to receive aid to rebuild from the devastation of Hurricane Harvey. Civil liberties defenders are calling the measure a violation of the U.S. Constitution. You think? You think that a foreign government can determine whether or not we receive state funding or federal funding because we have to pledge an oath and allegiance to them? So the electronic intifada has found that several major cities in Texas are also requiring similar verification from people who want to do business with them. An official form for residents of Dickinson to apply for city aid to rebuild hurricane-damaged homes and businesses requires certification that the applicant does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during the term of this agreement. The Houston suburb of about 20,000 residents was one of the areas hardest hit by Hurricane Harvey. 90% of the town was flooded, and local authorities say that 7,000 homes and almost 100 businesses were seriously damaged. The First Amendment protects Americans' rights to boycott, and the government cannot condition hurricane relief or any other public benefit on commitment to refrain from protected political expression. Andre Segura, Texas legal director for the ACLU. The ACLU, huh? Okay. Dickinson's requirement is an egregious violation of the First Amendment, reminiscent of McCarthy-era loyalty oaths, requiring Americans to disavow membership in the Communist Party and other forms of subversive activity. Let's see what we have here. The ACLU said the measure appeared to be an effort to enforce recently passed Texas law, which is true, that requires all state contractors to certify that they are not participating in boycotts of Israel. Again, why does this happen? Why does this have to come from a state level? When signing that law, Governor Greg Abbott declared anti-Israel policies are anti-Texas policies, and we will not tolerate such actions against an important ally. Oh my God. I tell you, man, it's that Steeler Wheel song. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Because what it really boils down to is the fact that most of us are wedged between a vice grip between two groups, the neoliberals and the neocons. One is an adherent to a form of basic fascism. The other is an adherent to a form that is a socialistic, proto-socialistic, communistic version of governance. Guess which one is which? The neoliberals chime in on the socialistic, communistic side. The neocons chime in on the fascistic, top-down side, right? So here we are. We got these two powers that are jockeying, essentially, for dominion of the world and how we live our lives from a governmental level or through the governmental level. And where's our voice in all of this? It's like what I was talking about last night. Steve Bannon is actually a really interesting guy. He's a smart guy, but he's also a deeply avowed Zionist. I mean, can't we have like a stance that is kind of the synergy between these two poles, right? Because if you're anti-Israel, right? If you're anti-Israel and you're pro-Palestine, you're pro-rights, and all those things, then guess what? You're on the left. You're scum. You hate Israel. You're an anti-Semite. All these things come into play, right? But if you're on the right, and you are strongly, into this whole kind of, Zionist mind trip and Israel's our best friend, then you're kind of on the fascist wing of all. It's just really weird. Like, can't we just untangle this so that we can have a different kind of discussion? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? It certainly would be. Because now, all of a sudden, these ideas of liberty and morality and freedom and the American way, all that good stuff that came out of 1776, if you're into that trip, right? And some of it is actually quite good. It's revolutionary. It's radical. It was a document that, unlike maybe the Magna Carta or that French document, didn't really exist to that degree, right? But now, apparently, in order to be able to embrace those ideals, you also have to embrace Israel on the far right. You have to do it. You have to do it. And if you say, well, this is too much for me, I can't do it, then you go over to the left, and now you're embracing the other side of the same coin. But it's different. You're either going Bolshevik or you're going hardcore neocon Zionist. I mean, it's just, can't we have a discussion that separates the two? Wouldn't that be nice? Would it be nice to have a discussion about being American without having to pledge allegiance to some other country? Don't you? Because I feel kind of tainted when that happens, to be honest with you. And it doesn't really matter what the country is. I mean, let's say we just play the game, right? And we buy into this whole American trip. Oh, but you must embrace this as well as being American. No, I don't. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's Israel, India. Doesn't matter if it's Venezuela. Doesn't matter if it's Djibouti. It doesn't matter. It's like, come on, let's distill this stuff out. Because these add-ons, right? It's kind of, it's kind of like getting an app, and you just agree to the app, and all of a sudden you've got, wow, hey, I didn't know that was part of the deal. Okay, here we go. I'm going to continue to read this story. Major cities required no boycott pledge. An examination of the websites of about a dozen other hurricane-affected Houston area municipalities did not turn up similar measures to Dickinson's. But guidelines issued in September by the city of Galveston for contractors wanting to bid for neighborhood projects contain an Israel anti-boycott provision. The Galveston police also issued a tender for uniforms that requires bidders to verify they don't boycott Israel. The cities of Austin and San Antonio have adopted similar provisions. Texas is one of 21 states to adopt measures ostracizing or attempting to restrict the boycott, divestment, and sanctions of BDS Movement for Palestinian Rights. This month, the ACLU filed a lawsuit on behalf of a teacher in Kansas who is being required to repudiate boycotts of Israel as a condition for taking on a state contract as a trainer. Amid a national furor of the claimed right of Nazis and white supremacists like Richard Spencer to speak on college campuses, establishment media and politicians seldom criticize the growing censorship around Israel. This is true. But journalist Glenn Greenwald commented that the move by Dickinson again demonstrates that the greatest and most frequent threat to free speech in the West is the attempt to criminalize and outlaw activism against Israel, drawing a contrast with the panic over often dubious claims of Russian interference in the 2016 election. Journalist Max Blumenthal quipped that the Texas municipality's tying of aid to a recipient's views on Israel amounts to a kind of foreign meddling our elites tolerate. Absolutely. Nobody ever talks about this. Nobody ever talks about AIPAC or JINSA or the lobbies that basically flood our congressmen and our senators to do whatever their bidding is for the most part. Nobody ever talks about that, but clearly it's meddling. But nobody ever talks about it because everybody's getting money. Everybody's getting paid. You see, apparently Russia didn't pay enough people. That's the problem. Currently, the U.S. Congress is considering the Israel Anti-Boycott Act, which could impose prison and heavy fines on companies or their personnel accused of abiding boycotts of Israel called for by international organizations. The Israel Anti-Boycott Act currently has 266 sponsors in the House and 50 in the Senate. Over the summer, the ACLU wrote to senators condemning the bill for violating constitutional free speech rights. Due to sustained legal pressure from legal groups and activists, a handful of U.S. lawmakers have pulled their support of the bill. There you go. In August, 100 civil and human rights organizations endorsed a statement urging lawmakers to reject the bill outright. The powerful Israel lobby group AIPAC has made passing the bill one of its top legislative priorities. There's a lot of... Well, there's two comments here. So this is on a website called Electronic Intifada. There's also an article here about Richard Spencer says he turns to Israel for guidance. This should automatically disqualify Richard Spencer as being able to lead any kind of movement, whether it has to do with free speech, whether it has to do with free thought, whether it has to do with identitarian politics, whatever it is, he should be automatically disqualified. If you are a follower of Richard Spencer, you should pull out now. You probably should have pulled out a while ago. You know what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next is if these people are successful at carrying out their mission, which is to continue to make people afraid to voice their opinion economically, right? Not just say, hey, I don't like this, but to say we're gonna pull out of this because, quite frankly, we don't really like how you're treating these people. So from a philosophical, moral, and even perhaps religious perspective, we're not going to do business with you. So they want to nip that in the bud. Well, after that, guess what happens after that? What happens after that is speech. That you cannot say anything derogatory, or you cannot say anything that is inflammatory as it relates to Israel. And in this country, we have freedom of speech. We can talk about anything. It's one of the great things. People pay a price for it. They pay a price for their free speech. I'm not a huge Colin Kaepernick fan, but he paid a price for it. He went out there, he used the NFL as a platform for his ideas, his radicalization, and the marketplace has spoken. Colin Kaepernick is still not playing professional football. But he has a right. He has a right to say that. Free speech is not free. It is one of the most it is one of the most, how do I say this, valuable. It's like gold. That's how important free speech is. It's like gold, but it's not free. You know, it is a risk in our society as it is today to speak freely, and it has been for decades. And so what we're looking at here is the beginning of a modification and a muzzling. And where does it stop? Well, now you can't talk about China. You can't talk about China in a derogatory fashion. Oh, and guess what? You cannot boycott China. You just can't buy American-made products. No, we're going to force you to buy products from China. And if you speak in a derogatory fashion towards China, well, that's going to be another mark against you. And however that gets sorted out in the social media perspective. But you see, it won't stop. And the next thing you know, we're completely muzzled. Oh, you can't talk about this group, or you can't talk about that group, or you can't talk about this person, or you can't talk about this idea, or you can't talk about this movement, or you can't talk about whatever. All of a sudden now we're hemmed in. We're hemmed in. And even this whole idea that free speech is hate speech. This is where it's all been kind of manicured and contoured and contorted to become. Free speech is hate speech. Because anytime you get into free speech, you can be in a contrarian mode. Because quite often a person is expressing something that is against the views of another group or another person or another set of ideas. And that is one of the most damaging things that we can have. And Stefan Molyneux has talked about this quite a bit, and the whole idea of free speech. And when you lose it, you're fucked. And he's absolutely right. So what do? We become aware. We talk about these things. Bringing light to the machinations of the matrix is one of the best things that we can do on a daily basis. Look, it takes work, people. You know why it takes work? Because people are working on the other side in order to craft your reality. And do you want that? Do you just want to sit back and let these reality shapers come in and begin to shift and manipulate and contort where you're able to live, what you're able to talk about, what you're able to think about? And if so, you just may as well just take a pill now and let it happen. It doesn't mean that you have to go run down to the state capitol and start protesting. Oftentimes, it doesn't really work too well. But I'll tell you what does work is flipping a switch in your consciousness. Because there is a process where when you become aware of something, it shifts the energy and it shifts the light in some ways towards that thing that you become aware of. It's like, oh, wow, this is supposed to be hidden. The culted in line number 11 of the agreement from the city of Dickinson 11's an interesting place to put it too, by the way. And so on a metaphysical level, on a quantum level, by becoming aware of it, we change the thing. In our own way, we change the thing. How many people now are aware of what's happened in Las Vegas? A lot. A lot. There's more coming out. Have you seen the video of the ambulances taking people out of Hooters? It's out there. There's a lot of information that we had multiple shooters across the city, and it's becoming clearer and clearer that this is what took place. And most people are not believing the company line, especially after that absolutely pathetic interview that Ellen did with Jesus Campos, whom you'll never see again. You will never see Jesus Campos again, trust me. That guy is done. Maybe he was created just to walk out there for that moment in time. If you look back at that restaurant, the dinner at the restaurant, which happens before the actual renovation of the restaurant, which took place on July 10th, it's clear that they were either using a photo from some other event or they staged the whole thing so that Jesus Campos could look like a hero and become sort of the, I don't know, the Zapruder film in some ways of the Las Vegas event. But we're becoming aware of it, and we're changing the nature of the event. You notice now that, and I'm not necessarily invested in gun control or gun rights. I think people have the right to own a gun. I think this country would be a lot worse if we didn't have them, to be quite honest with you. I don't own one. But I support the right to, because it's in the Constitution. And no matter, what version of reality you check into, it's just not enough to convince me or anyone otherwise that the whole gun thing is a huge problem. It's a huge problem in Chicago. That never gets really talked about, though. Anyway, we're changing reality. We're changing reality through our perception and our awareness, our conscious awareness of it. So it's good to talk about these things. It's good to bring them up because there is a fundamental dynamic that occurs when we become aware of these things. And it's work. Sorry, life on earth is work. If you wanted some other paradise planet, you wouldn't be here. Right? You'd be off in some bliss world, just communing with the forces of the cosmos 24/7, or there wouldn't be any time, so you'd be in a state of eternity, the bliss world of eternity. But you're here now, and this is work, and I'm sorry, or I'm not sorry, because this is where we are. And the faster you accept it, the sooner you accept it, the better it is. And you put on your big boy and your big girl pants, and you get to work. We got Saturn and Capricorn coming up, and that's going to require a lot of work individually for each of us to move through the next 3 years of our shared experience. So there you go. There's today's 15 minutes of flame. Be aware of what's going on, what's embedded in contracts. And I bet you there are provisions in social contracts that you're not even aware of that you consent to. But that's a different discussion for a different time. I hope the sound was better and we got rid of the hiss. I want to get that hiss up. I did the live stream last night on YouTube. It was a great show, really great show. We had Q&A from the audience or the listeners. I get about 50 to 60 people on Sunday nights. It's really kind of intimate. It's neat, It's not like you have this, like with Alex Jones when he does a live stream and the comments are just kind of ripped by you. It's like a slot machine. Here it's like the opportunity to actually have a dialogue with people. It was a really good show last night, and I appreciate everybody coming out and listening. That'll be on my website today. I'm going to put that up on the homepage, and just to let you know, I've got the webinar coming up on Astrolata this Saturday about Saturn and Capricorn. So, this is it. This is where we can look at the blueprint for the next 3 years and how you're going to navigate it. Because that's a really important aspect around all of this, is how we navigate these times. And Saturn and Capricorn, it's about growing up. This is it. This is it. These next 3 years are going to determine really the nature of our social structures and our social constructs and what you're going to do about it. And it can be really dynamic. Remember, Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So this is all about initiation in a big way coming up here at the end of the year, December 2017 to December 2020, 3-year period of Saturn in Capricorn. All right, you know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step into what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. I'll be back tomorrow